Yeah,
I
you know, like
remember in jump school, we had a whole bunch of combat controllers and PJs that had just finished their course, and they were going through jump school, same as we were going through jump school at what is that, Benning?
yeah.
And they looked good. You know, their bodies, they had musculature, they didn't look like beat up scarecrows with pot bellies. A bud's graduating class is not a pretty thing. Everybody looks good maybe 6 months, 8 months later, a year later, but you're or a beat up creature. Same with like ranger graduations, you know? I mean, they look worse.
Back, crazy Dan Brown, homeboy from another world, fucking Tibetan monk, Navy SEAL. I'll do if you ain't a Tibetan monk, motherfucker. I don't know what the hell one is. I still can't. You know, it's funny because we went through training together, and you don't know everybody's story. You know, I knew you, and I knew your cousins, and I knew that you were in my family, and we were good. But you running in fucking work boots and a pair of jeans to get ready to go to SEAL training, and I was like,
I just did that the one time to see if I could do it. You know, they said
hey,
you had
dog,
to
you know,
run 3 miles at a certain. I was like, oh look, I can do it. That's good. No, I didn't
hey
do it
Dan.
again.
So last week I interviewed a water polo player. Okay. And he is massively OCD, massively. He was training to go to SEALs, right? Dude was doing a full college swim workout at UNLV, then leaving the pool and going to a full water polo practice. And then
Okay,
he
where
ended
you
up
swim
going
straight? Swim
Rangers.
two? You went Rangers?
Yeah. Yeah, because the Navy was he had a new daughter, and the Navy was saying he had to sign away his daughter. He wasn't willing to do that, but the Army took him, so he went Rangers, and he had kick ass career in the Rangers. Man, he did 5-6 years in the Rangers. You know, like, but I heard that shit.
Who was
That motherfucker crazy.
Zen was a water polo player.
Yeah, all them were Zen, Choate, Gruen. All them dudes was water polo players.
It made the swims not a workout for them. I mean, they
Yeah,
obviously did them, but while some of us were trying not to die, other guys were recovering.
Dan, I think there was no swims or runs that I didn't have a near death experience on. After first, like we got the first phase, like it was bad, man.
Do you
You know, but
remember? Do you remember the time we swam in the bay in the harbor
oh yeah,
and
yep,
the tide was moving
yep. And we didn't,
and
and
we
literally,
came
you
out of
didn't
the
go.
water? I remember coming out of the water and thinking, "All right, I think I did that." You judge it by effort expended, right?
Yep,
Generally, if your effort was high throughout, you had a good guide on, and you were clean, you would expect a certain time. We came out of the water and it was something like 108 or 92. It was just some disgusting, like double the time it was supposed to be. I can't remember. And it was just a joke because the bay was ebbing at like 4 knots or something. It was just a joke. I remember looking at a rock and being like, "Ah, okay, okay. And then swimming for like 15, 20 minutes. And then pretty sure that's the same tree. It was a
yep,
joke. It was
yeah,
fun,
yeah. I
but
mean, but shoot, I think so. Cats asked me about that. So now all their swims are in the bay because you know all the poopy water in the ocean. But
now
I
all of
tell
their
everybody,
swims are in the bay. The bay is better
yeah,
than the Pacific.
poopy wise, yeah, because the poop is running right up the coast. So
You don't want to river.
most of the time the current was running north where we were, like for whatever
Right.
reason, and so
Yeah.
it was bringing the poopy water right up the road. Um, you were with us, man. Like you didn't leave till the very end, but so I want to say it was like second phase, maybe like March, and it was Sea State 3. There was a massive fucking storm out there because it wasn't. Was it first phase where people couldn't get out to the swims? I thought it was at the
It was
beginning of
first
second
phase. It
phase.
was first phase where we couldn't get out to the swims. It was first phase where we did a surf appreciation and half the class couldn't make it out past like 6 levels of surf. And they just made us keep trying. And, a whole, like the badasses were out there past the surf and the rest of us were just being destroyed. That was when, who was the lieutenant that was running the class? Story. That's when he busted his shoulder, I think,
No, he
snapped his
but
arm.
I watched him on the O course story. went on the pull-up bars and it kept dislocating his shoulders on the pull-up bar. But yeah,
It
and that
was
dude's
on
a
that big swim day with just the waves that were beating us up, and I never made it out.
you
And
wait,
we were
was
supposed to
that
be right with your swim buddy. So that also made it a lot harder to get through surf when you're trying to, and it wasn't until afterwards that they told us, when you're getting through the surf, you can use the crawl. I was like, oh, it's just, come on, man. It's just,
it didn't matter, man. Like I remember like Ryan Angles said he sat out there for 2 hours
yep.
and he was like,
Well,
man,
we
waiting
just
for
got,
this. Yeah, and all of us were in the surf zone. I was still swimming with Clint then, and then, the life jacket got ripped off of somebody, and I was like, that was in Surf Passage, like with the boats. But I just remember we tried to pass a swim in Sea State 3.
no, but there was days where it was the same, where we did get out past the surf because we're better at it now. And I mean, try to catch a clean breath where the mist and the waves and it's wobbly and you can't see the shore for the waves on the right of you, as you're going up. I mean, I don't know. I think you talk a lot about buds, right? I mean, you teach guys how to get
Yeah,
through
yeah,
it. And
that's yeah. I mean, I don't even really teach. You know what? It's interesting. I got so Hell Week secured on Friday, and
cool.
I got a bunch of kids in the class, and so I got a bunch of phone calls. And I said, "How was it?" And the one dude was like, "Oh man, it wasn't even that bad." I'm like, "How you feeling?" He's like, "I'm really jacked up." Right? I'm like, "Well, that's how it is, right? You can say it wasn't that bad and still be really jacked up, But the other dude was like, "Oh my god, Jake, it was so hard." And I'm like, "Okay, well, like it's just getting started. Like now we're on the pool comp. We're gonna start studying." I tell everybody, I don't teach people how to get through it. I just prepare them to go. Unlike we were not prepared, Dan. Here's the baseline you need to be doing. You need to be this much running, this much swimming. They're doing some shit on the assault bike, so they're kind of incorporating some of the stuff from the Air Force. Kind of has a really neat thing. They do a lot of like no impact shit, like assault bikes, stationary bikes, like their whole compound is set up with a bunch of equipment. And I got to go over there last summer. I was like, oh my God. So it sounds like NSW is incorporating like same level of like full fitness shit. Like the assault bike is a motherfucker, So now they got an assault bike test. Like everybody going to officer selection this summer's got to get ready for it. But we'll do an hour assault bike before we go to buds every day. Like just get your shit total body, rope climbs,
That'll do it.
just yeah,
I
like
remember in jump school, we had a whole bunch of combat controllers and PJs that had just finished their course, and they were going through jump school, same as we were going through jump school at what is that, Benning?
yeah.
And they looked good. Their bodies, they had musculature. They didn't look like beat up scarecrows with pot bellies. A bud's graduating class is not a pretty thing. Everybody looks good maybe 6 months, 8 months later, a year later, but you're or a beat up creature. Same with like ranger graduations. I mean, they look worse, but I remember being a little jealous because they're like, oh no, we work out and they should teach it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
We just got, I psychologically, I got fat when I got out of the Navy because no one made me torture myself anymore. I mean, I got in shape again because, I like being healthy and it's fun. But it was like, the officers that had to eat cake every day never wanted to eat cake again in their lives.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
very much not fun. There was no fun or training part of it. The fun part might be challenging yourself and finding new depths, but
I
any
had a
reasonably fit athlete
yeah.
out of college doesn't
I had
have physical restraints on the program. It's all mental. There's no it's not. I mean, if you can do 20 pull-ups and be on any reasonable collegiate team
yeah.
and can swim, you're fine. I mean, dude, if you
So
just play water polo on the reserve team, that's good enough. You don't need any more than that ever. What's
so
the
they
first run time at fucking PTRR?
32 32
34,
minutes.
33?
Well, you got to have so now to get out of PTRR, you got to have first phase time. So you got to run a 32.
32? Okay.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
got to
still,
test in
though.
the class. Yeah, yeah, but it's still 8-minute mile, like 8-minute mile. And then the fastest you got to be is a 7-minute mile, which is I mean, I'm sorry, is a 7:30-minute mile. It ain't even like it goes from 32 to 31 to 30. So the running, but you know what's interesting, Dan? They just had in this last class, they had a couple wrestlers not make it. And it
Really?
was like, and it was interesting. I said, how did he?
Too thin, no fat?
I don't know, man. My understanding is the officer just decided that it wasn't for him, which I mean, I tell a lot of people, man, you can say you want that life, but if you ain't comfortable with the life and the grit before you get there, there's gonna be a lot of shit there to make you say, hey man, I don't really want to go do this no more. I don't seen 18 people drown today. I don't want to do this no more. That was the one, like when we were at the pool and pool comp, that one I was like, oh shit, this is real.
Yeah, no, there were some challenging aspects all along. I thought pool comp was dive phase pool comp was interesting. The amount of time that you were under there, I mean, every challenge is a 1 to 2 minute breath hold, and you're doing 5 to 10 of those with a
5 of
recovery
them.
time that's really at
Yeah.
the instructor's pleasure.
Yeah.
He pulls that regulator out of your mouth when he wants to, not regulator, hoses, and you there are just little things, and that took a lot for a lot of people. I know. And then there was in the cold, you can't really get around that. You just kind of have to accept it and acknowledge that you're going to be cold, unless you're a strangely large man who isn't affected by the cold, similar to yourself or Clint.
Massive, like, walking around at like 14% body fat and got the Celtic gene that I don't really get cold. And
No,
yeah,
I
I
mean it
mean,
helps.
it does. But I know this. I tell everybody, I don't care if you got one aspect of Bud's beat, the devil's still going to show up and talk to you about some other aspects. Because I'm going to tell you, I mean, shit, you were the same group, buddy team I was, man. Them runs and swims, man. Like, I mean, there was some runs and swims where the devil was with me 1 minute into the run. That motherfucker was like, hey, man, you don't have to do this. Like, I know you're running as hard as you can, but like, you're still not going to make it. It was like Demo Pit Road's third phase. And I was like, I'm passing this run, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got out there and I ran out there and it was 14 minutes at the turnaround. And I was like, oh, I got it. I got it. And I turned around and like 5 minutes later, every ounce of my body was just like, nah, motherfucker, we done. I was like, no, no. And I remember I finished it like, I don't know, 30, 30, 30, right? Like I was like a full 30 seconds to a minute off. Like I wasn't even close to pass.
It's not for everyone. I want to say it's not that hard. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. It is not the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's definitely the most challenging organized structure that I'd ever been placed in before or after. But once you get it,